And now, from Grid Square Echo Mike 48, this is 100 Watts and a Wire.
Okie dokie, good morning, everybody. It's Christian. Welcome to 100 Watts and a Wire, and good Saturday morning to you. Don't want to frighten the children. You may want them to look away. I've been hit across the head. I had a fell tree I was working on this week, and it got the best of me in parts there. So look away. I'm hideous. Good morning, Steve.
Morning, Christian.
So we got big fun happening today, I think. I don't know much about ham radio and ballooning, but I'm fascinated with the fact that you can send a balloon up and it can go hundreds of miles. And being the father of two young people, the STEM and the STEAM programs are so important to my wife and I as we look for the future. And I think this is a really good thing for me to get to know about anyway. So as with most things ham radio, I kind of get into it when I get to it. You know what I mean? That's why people say, do you watch all the YouTube, ham radio YouTube? I don't think I could, any one person could really consume that much content, which is a great thing. There's a lot out there for people who are looking, but I look for it if I'm trying to build an off-center fed dipole, if I'm trying to learn about, that's kind of how it goes for me. So right now, I'm going to learn about these balloon launches. And we got the guy here.
Awesome.
We've got the guy.
I've watched a few of those, and they're just great. In fact, they even make it around the world, and that's just incredible. And, to watch the videos of the launching and the retrieving, and it's cool. It's really, really cool. So
yeah, I have so many questions. We have Bill's going to be with us in just a couple of minutes. In 2017, the May edition of QST, they referred to him as the master of high-altitude balloon projects. The master.
Nice.
The master.
We got
the master here. We've got to get the chi and the whatever is right. I got some incense burning. He'll just say, "Shut up! Stop talking."
GPS transmitter from my palm. It's time for you to leave, grasshopper.
Yeah, that's what we're gonna do. Steve had the line of the probably the line of the year so far, and you guys didn't get to hear it. Before we take to the air and get into the stream, we meet with the Amateur Radio Newsline crew, of which, I do stories. We see Paul and Karen, the editor, right? They all join in, and there's just these list of demands. And we tease them about, this is my thing, and it's kind of like, can I see myself, Paul? Can I see my this? And it's all teasing, right?
Focus in a little more.
Focus a little more me. I can't hear this side. A little more, yes, in the monitor. Yes. Check. And Paul's got such a great voice, it's his thing. And please don't play Earl Bailey right now. I am here, all these things. These are all just jokes, by the way. But we do connect a little bit before the show to make sure. And it's just this laugh fest. And what did you say? Because they were moving me around. Cameras are switching back and forth. And you said, what was the line?
The ARN abuse line.
The Amateur Radio Abuse Line. It was hysterical.
Amateur Radio News Line, Abuse Line. Welcome. What do you want?
We've got our friend from Amsterdam joining us, an international show here. We're doing ham radio and ballooning on the front side of this.
Good morning. Here we are.
Everybody's got their coffee. I've got a couple of these. I'm unplugged. Sadly, you can see my radio is sad. I'm unplugged yet again because of lightning this morning. So it'll be one of those days. I had enough time to go out, work on a fell tree, have it smack me across the forehead as I'm clearing it away. I thought about wearing a hat, but it's a little warm. You have to see the cuts and the scrapes too, guys. But children, look away. All right, Steve, I'm going to send you to visit with our friends over in the chat and see how things are going over there. Hope everybody's doing well. Hello to everybody in the chat, Edwin and James and all the people that I can see. Right now, I'm going to bring in the master. I will send him your regards, Steve. Is there an offering I should give? I don't know if there's something I should give to the master. Like a little balloon? Can I make like a clown thing and be like, yes, for you. I've made this for you, master.
Oh, master.
Hopefully we've let him know that's going to be a good time. All right, Steve, we'll see you in just a few minutes. And,
See you in a few.
And we'll bring him in. Here he is. He's the master. Hello, good morning to you, sir. Let me make sure I got you off the mute, and I think we're clear. Good morning, sir.
Well, may the balloon be with you.
I love this. This is perfect. I feel like I'm certainly gonna learn something. And but welcome here to the show. This is Whiskey Bravo 8, Echo Lima Kilo. I love that call sign. It's great. Is that a vanity sign, or did it just come out that way?
I got my first license 2 days after they landed on the moon.
Wow.
And it was random. It just came that way. So it was WN8ELK, and then I got my general and advanced and became WB8ELK, and it's my name. It's my trademark, so that's what I've kept with all these years.
Congratulations on a wonderful professional career too. If you can, let us know in like a minute or so what your job is or was. Are you retired now? Are you enjoying the retirement,
well,
or are you semi-retired?
I worked for many years on Army missile systems, and then I was retired for a little bit, and then a job came through from NASA, and they asked me in the interview, you're of retirement age, how long do you plan to work? And I said, I plan to retire on Mars, and this is the way to make that happen. And I think that's why they hired me.
I love that.
I've been working on the SLS rocket, the Space Launch System, which will be the Artemis mission to the moon. So it's like doing the Apollo missions 50 years later. It's just an awesome program to be working on.
Congratulations on that. We'll have to have you back again to open that up just a little bit. If we didn't scare you off in the pre-show comments that I was talking about, we were having a good time there. You're actually a witness. You may be called to testify one day. I'm sorry, Bill. What happened in 1960 that made you want to get involved in, or was it 1960 or the 60s, where you watched a film and it's kind of kicked things off for your interest?
Well, I got into ham radio because when I was about 4 or 5, my great uncle, W8UN, he had been a ham since 1921, and his first radio was a spark gap transmitter. And he was finally told to shut that down because he was wiping out every AM radio receiver in the entire town. So he had to actually go and build a regular transmitter. So he said, "Little Billy, listen to this." And there was a beep, 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 beep coming over the radio. And he said, "That's Sputnik. That's a satellite." So that got me interested in both ham radio and the space program. So then, much later, I watched a documentary on Joe Kittinger, who parachuted from 103,000 feet above the Earth. And that was so exciting to me, the view of the curvature of the Earth, the blackness of space during midday. I wanted to see that view, but I didn't want to risk my life doing it. So I came up with the idea of launching a TV transmitter with a live TV camera and a little 2-meter tracking beacon. That was way before there was GPS and way before APRS mode. So we had to find it by the old-fashioned direction finding techniques. And we could see a fabulous view of the curvature of the Earth, just like Joe Kittinger saw. And it was live, it was on a weather balloon, and I didn't have to risk my life by doing it. So it was just phenomenal. We had, if you can imagine an antenna that's 20 miles high, 100,000 foot tall antenna, just how far you could get out on VHF and UHF. And the answer is about 400 miles in all directions. So people were watching the video from this first flight from all over the Midwest and about 12-state area. We came within a half mile of the signal, but couldn't quite home in on it. And 6 weeks later, a farmer found it in his field, and we got it back.
It's an interesting part. Now, these things could weigh up to like 6 pounds, or is that sort of much later down the road?
The FAA Part 101 rules allows you to have 6 pounds of payload for a total of 12 pounds. So you could have 12 1-pound payloads or 2 6-pound payloads. you can't fly like a 6-pound lead weight. It has to have some density requirements too, like styrofoam around it. But that's the limit without getting a special waiver from the FAA. The latex balloons typically go up to about 110,000 feet or so. The balloon pops, parachute comes out, and it comes safely back to Earth. And those are about a 2 to 3 hour flight. During the winter, they can go 200 miles downrange, but during the summer, they could land right back almost on top of you from where you launched it. I went to these Radioson sites. There's 75 sites across the United States where they launch these twice a day to do wind models. And one guy, I went to witness it before I did my first launch, because this was the first launch ever in the United States for a TV camera and a little transmitter like this on a weather balloon. And that was 33 years ago. And I've done about 600 flights since.
Let's go back just a little bit to talk about, you mentioned the parachute, and I'm curious about the logistics and coordination of these things. You're talking about an obstacle, parachuting from the sky, and tracking. I know you're big on tracking, and you designed a system to do that tracking. How about in the early days? Was there a real concern about where this thing may land, and could it hurt someone, and how does that work?
I developed a program called Ball Track and later Balloon Track that was my friend Rick in 0KKZ turned it into a really snazzy program. And you could enter the winds aloft data from the National Weather Service, and it would give you a pretty good estimate of where it was going to land. So that really helped a lot. So we would just basically go down range, have a chase crew down range, and the balloon would go up. They'd have direction finding on it. I had some of the best fox hunter teams in the Midwest chasing these. The Indianapolis fox hunter team, they chased a lot of them, and that was a big event for them to be on the chase. That was half the fun. And so they recovered all of them that we flew over the Midwest. I have had a few land. One landed in a swamp in South Carolina, and I was about to traipse in there, and the guy said, "If I were you, I wouldn't do that." I said, "Why is that?" "It's filled with alligators."
See you later.
We let that one go.
Check.
We let that one go.
Yeah, for sure. I'm going to ask you a series of questions about benefits, and they may cross over each other a little bit here, but what are the benefits of this to education?
Oh, absolutely. I've done school events, hundreds of schools events in multiple states, elementary school all the way up to college level. This is an incredible benefit to STEM education and STEAM. I went into a 6th grade class, and we had the entire 6th grade class come out. I asked them a trivia question, and that's who was the second man to set foot on the moon. Most of the answers had the word Buzz in them, was Buzz Lightyear, but that's close enough. So whoever got Buzz Aldrin, I let them launch the balloon. And you would have thought that they were launching their very own satellite into space because they were so excited. And I went to a restaurant about a week later, and one of the students came up to me and said, "Mr. Brown, I didn't know what to do in my career and study for, but now I've decided to become an astronaut."
Wow.
So, it's inspiration of getting our youth involved in technology and amateur radio.
Speaking of amateur radio, yeah.
Yes, and many of the teachers that are involved that I work with, they go on to get their amateur radio license, and many of those students do as well, because now they see something they can do that's really fun with ham radio rather than sitting around talking about their ailments on 75 meters. So they generally they love the digital modes. They love the fact that if you incorporate their smartphone so they can track it on a map, APRS-FI, and there's another site called tracker.habhub.org that tracks all the ham radio balloons that are flying. If they can if you can tell them they can bring that up on their smartphone and track the balloon they just launched, you've got them hooked as long as you get their smartphones involved.
Yeah, that's a good trick. Let's bundle these two together in the interest of time, and I do hope you'll come back and spend more time with me. I think this is fascinating stuff. The benefits of science of this balloon launching and the benefits to ham radio, maybe those two can be bundled together.
Sure, this is a great avenue to encourage people of all ages to get into amateur radio. I know quite a few new hams that got into it just by their excitement about launching a balloon that could potentially go completely around the world. I've been developing some very tiny lightweight transmitters. They're called the Sky Tracker, both on APRS and on whisper mode on 20 meters, that only 20 milliwatts, but the whisper ones can be heard on the other side of the world during their transmission. And I like to call that, instead of 100 watts in a wire, it's 10 milliwatts and a magnet wire.
That's a new show. Thank you, Bill. You'll host that one. We'll do that for you. We'll produce that one for you. In terms of the science, go ahead.
The science, we have a group of students here at the University of Alabama, Huntsville, that they have a space hardware club, and they are taking my trackers, all whisper mode, and these balloons that are basically about the size of a trash bag that can stay aloft for upwards of several months. And they've teamed up with NOAA to validate their wind models for their long duration wind models on their website. So they're working with NOAA and they're using our ham radio balloon tracks. They have a prediction software and they're comparing it to what actually happens. So this is definitely advancing science as they study the jet stream compared to their wind models.
You want to talk briefly about Equinox, the most recent launch?
Yes, Trevor McDuff, KS1LAS, got a grant to basically fund 14 Sky Trackers, both APRS and there were some with whisper mode, and these special balloons that could stay aloft, and they launched 14 of them all over the world. 10 in the United States, there were 2 in Australia, 1 in Argentina, and most recently 1 in Thailand, and soon to be 1 in Nigeria. So, and it was a real challenge finding some ham radio operators in Nigeria, but we did. So they launched within a 2-day window, and some of them hit storms and came down, some hit mountain turbulence. It was like watching a NASCAR race with several wrecks happening along the way. And 3 of them did survive. 2 of them went completely around the world just 2 weeks after they were launched. And they were in a race, and they were only 7 hours apart. And 2 high school students, Audrey and Jack McElroy, KM4ZIA and KM4BUN, they won the race. Amy Allerton, KG7KYW, was in second place with her team. She launched from Utah, and the McElroys launched from Atlanta, Georgia. They are currently, Amy's balloon is currently over Romania, and the McElroys is over Turkmenistan, and they are on their second lap now around the world.
That's amazing. Well, thank you, Bill. Thanks for coming by. I hope you'll come back. Let us know if we can help you with anything and talk about any new launches or what's going on with current launches. We'd love to have you back and talk a little bit about your work and your builds, your tracker programs, and all that sort of stuff. And congratulations on a great career.
And if anybody wants any information, they can send an email to gmail.com with my call sign, Whiskey Bravo 8 Echo Lima Kilo, at Gmail.
Will do. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Master. I think I have to do. I don't know what's appropriate. I don't lose eye contact. I'm reading on that too. I'll get better at it. Thanks, Bill.
All right.
Take care. 73.
It's been a pleasure. Thank 73.
You. The ICOM 705 is your perfect QRP companion, as you have base station features and functionality at the tip of your fingers. but it's in a portable package covering HF 6 meters, 2 meters, and 70 centimeters. This compact rig weighs in at 1 kilo or just over 2 pounds, with RF direct sampling for most of the HF band and IF sampling for frequencies above 25 megahertz. It's got that large 4.3-inch color touchscreen with live band scope and waterfall. And the perfect accessory for the IC705 is the optional backpack. It's the LC192. It has a special compartment for the IC705 and room for accessories for soda activations or just a day in the park. Visit icomamerica.com/amateur for more information on all ICOM radios. And Bioenno Power, offering the best performance lithium iron phosphate batteries for your ham radios. Visit bioennopower.com. That's BIOENNOPOWER.com. Or contact dealers nationwide. All right, friends, this is the portion of our show where we get together with our friends from Amateur Radio Newsline, and I feel like I may be getting ready to hear the business from my friends. But here they are. Karen, she's out in the very frosty overlook there doing her reports. Let me make sure we got you unmuted there. You're good. And then Paul. I like that symbol, Paul. I think you're muted. There you go.
Yeah,
I like this. What was this? Was that the sign that you can't hear or see me, or what?
That was the sign that I was muted.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, thanks.
Okay, Karen, we need to
that
do this.
college education
I
coming
was
through for me.
thinking there are three of us. We could do hear no evil, see no evil.
I'll do this one.
Speak no, yeah.
There's my next thumbnail.
Yeah. Okay.
Good, got it.
Okay. There
But
we
welcome.
monkeys.
Look at you guys with this background. A
Yeah.
very exciting report. I said something troubling this morning to Paul and kind of freaked everybody out. But I like to still listen to the audio. I listen to the audio of this show more than I watch myself. I mean, I've only got a brush burn from some kind of tree, and then so I listened to Amateur Radio Newsline this week in the shower. It seemed to gross you out a little bit, and Paul was freaked out about it a little bit. So I didn't know it was a thing. You know, I didn't know it was a thing. I said, Paul, you sounded great. I listened to the Newsline in the shower, and it was like, the coughing.
It was unclear. It was unclear whether you were the one in the shower or whether you were listening to Paul in the shower. And the
hadn't
image,
even thought that one.
Yeah, either image was
Either image is not
challenging
good.
for me.
No.
It's not even noon, and I
It's
know
weird,
people
man.
take. Yeah.
It's all weird. I'm sorry I brought it up, but I was trying to give a compliment, but it really
It's
went
all right.
to this dark.
You appreciate it.
Why are
Paul,
you,
I can't imagine where people listen to you sometimes.
Yeah.
Where do
can't
you
imagine,
listen
but
to
you're
you,
very,
Paul?
You're very portable. You're very portable wherever you go.
Johnny Carson used to talk about that, he'd sit there every night at that desk imagining because people normally watch that around bedtime, and he said, "Yeah, I don't try not to think about that."
No.
Yeah, it's pretty gross. You guys have sort of a wintry background. It's springtime. I'm slightly confused here. Let's figure out what's going on with these visuals. Karen, what's going on?
Yeah. Well, I'm dressed for the occasion here. I'm ready. I'm in Antarctica, or at least my green screen is. I'm safely home. This is a story that happened kind of naturally with people who had a joy for getting some DX in a big way. A fellow named Paul Daniels, VK2PAD, Australian ham radio operator, was assigned to work at Casey's station, and of course, who doesn't bring along their radio for the duration? He figured he'd get in a rag chew here or there. He might get in some good contacts, because who doesn't like to work Antarctica? Well, he's a SOTA activator, and he got to talking with some people, and a person in charge of worldwide flora and fauna said, "Hey, you're in a park, for goodness sake. You should activate. And while you're there, activate the continent." Anyway, this is sort of like the little engine that could. He just went down there with his radios thinking, get on the air. I'll do a little activation on the weekends. Well, he is having a ball with the pileups now. He is the spontaneous de-expedition that just sort of grew and grew and grew. And they say nothing can grow in Antarctica. Well, anyone who says that doesn't know ham radio. And he's really making the most of it. People are emailing him for appointments. But that doesn't stop the pileups. He's learning to manage the pileups. He's learning to work them. He's getting in a rag chew here and there, but mostly he's trying to accommodate folks who really want Antarctica in their log. And I just think it's one of the coolest stories in temperature-wise and theme-wise, in that you never know. You go someplace, you bring a radio, and things happen.
Any indication of where he's working, on what bands, that sort of thing? Or is it just sort of we're all over the place?
We did report in our newscast this week. Yeah, he's I believe he's on 20 and 40. He's being spotted, certainly, on the clusters. He's planning to try some new bands. I think he will try 17. He's not sure yet what else he might be on, but watch the clusters. He will definitely be visible there. He was looking to expand his frequency repertoire while down there.
Paul, what do you think of spontaneous pileups?
I think it's, I mean, it depends on, if he was expecting, kind of expecting it, that's cool. If he was just thinking, I'm just going to get a little time in here while I'm down here and work a few stations, and all of a sudden he becomes the focus of a spontaneous de-expedition, that changes things a little, because then you get a lot of people trying to work you, and you get a lot of people angry when they don't.
Yeah, that's complicated. Yeah, I'm curious to see what antennas you would have taken, what kind of radios you're working on, and, those kind of situations that surround it. But I'm sure it'll all come out.
Yeah. I mean, I never plan a vacation except when we're going somewhere where I can bring a couple of HTs with me. Like when we go to Vegas, my wife enjoys playing. I don't, because I suck at it. So I hang a Slim Jim up in the window in the hotel suite, and I sit there with the HTs and I work the local repeaters and keep myself entertained that way while she hopefully wins us money.
Right. Yeah, that never happens for me. It's a good plan.
I know. Well, the one time I told her, I said, you got to win me enough so I can go over to Gigaparts and get myself something. And so she walked back in the room and said, here. So I called an Uber and I went and bought some toys.
Hey, do we have a call sign for the gentleman in the Antarctica?
We do indeed. A VK0PD, Paul Daniels, his initials.
There you go. Thank you so much.
So be listening for him.
There you go. VK0PD. Thank you for that. Story number 2. Paul, you look like you're in a cold place too, and it looks slightly familiar.
Yeah. Behind me is Bouvet Island, which, as everybody knows, was one of the most anticipated de-expeditions from 2 years ago. I believe it was 2019. And they got this close to it. And then weather and a mechanical problem with the ship forced them to turn away, and they never got to the island, and they had to cancel or postpone the de-expedition. And at the time, it was also announced that there was a second group that was going to attempt a de-expedition to Bouvet, and for similar reasons, they didn't get that done either. However, both of those groups are making another attempt. The first one is going to be the Rebel group, Rebel DX group, which is planning on setting up for 30 days at the end of this year, sometime in December. And they're bringing a variety of equipment. They're planning on working everything 160 through 6. And they're going to be working all the bands, or even going to try to work, because down there, they're within the footprint of that Qatar satellite that's geostationary. So they're going to be working through that as well. And so there's going to be your first shot. And then the initial group that started it, which was the Intrepid DX group, is planning on going back in January of 2023. So that'll give you a second chance. Or in my case, that's 2 chances for me to not be heard at the bottom of a pileup.
Man.
But if you want to get more information and contribute, because these things are not cheap
At all.
the first one is just rebeldxgroup.com, and the other one is, intrepiddxgroup.com.
Isn't it about $30,000 a person, or am I pulling that number out of somewhere else?
No, that's the Rebel group says they're
20.
about
20.
Yeah, the Rebel group says they're about $32,000 short of their goal, so
I
they're
see.
doing a GoFundMe. But no, it's expensive. The people that actually go on these things all have to contribute 10 or 20 grand, depending on where they're going, a piece to help fund it, and then they take donations from the outside. So for those people that complain when they get a they get a contact and then the group is asking for like a $5 donation to get a QSL card,
Right.
don't complain, because you didn't have to spend 30 grand to go to this island so that you could get a contact.
Right. And that picture behind you, it reminds me of how the last team, I guess it was 18 or 19, somewhere in that, last year screwed everybody's minds up with the time. Yeah. But that image you have behind you is it's probably not quite that close, how close they came. They could actually see the island, but the engine blew or something, right? And the captain said we got to turn around.
Yeah, they had a mechanical problem with the engine on the Braveheart, and the captain
It was a
said,
cyclone.
Yeah, the captain said, for safety, we got to call this off, and turned around. So
and
the
they
equipment's
were
been
that
stored
close.
the equipment has been stored in Cape Town since.
Oh, good.
And so they're getting ready to dust it all off and head back.
What do you think, Karen?
Well, I think that was the real heartbreak of calling off that DXpedition, was that they literally could reach out and touch the island, but there were too many questions about safety. There were too many questions, too, about whether they'd be able to get back. So let's cross fingers for this one. They have been on the air, at least Dom, the leader, has been heard or has been spotted on the air from Cape Town. So some of the equipment's been out and they've been working on it, but they're ready. They're ready, and you know what? So are we.
Yeah, I mean, you think about getting that close to the island on a trip like that, and you've got money involved here, and the money just had to kind of go. I don't know how they allocated it, how things broke down after that. Is a lot of money, and then you can see it right there. You would think, can we have a small rowboat? You're that close. And it was a rough trip.
Dinghy. We'll go out there. Yeah.
Do you remember hearing about, because you could follow it along? I think there was a website,
Yes.
Bouvet Island, and it was rough. It was a rough trip. They had many storms and issues and things, and then they got that close. So I felt for that team for sure. Anyway, but I'm glad to see they're getting it back together.
Me too. Like I said,
that's
2 more chances
impossible.
for me to not work them.
Well, I'd love to work them too, but I don't know. I'm glad that they're going to be there for an extended period. And even the second team that comes back, if you didn't get the chance the first time around, maybe you've got another crack at it. The big guns seem to come out and clog the system up a little bit on an expedition like that.
You have a year between them to save for a linear amp.
Oh, thank you. Okay.
Yeah, the first group is going to be on the island. They're planning for a month, for 30 days. The second group will be there for 20. So between the two, if they get set up and operating, that gives you 50 days to try to get through. So, I mean, I'm going.
Uh-oh, we froze up on Paul. We may be frozen up. Oh, you're not frozen, Karen. No, he's not frozen either. Anyway, 30 days to get there was what you're last saying. You're fine. You're good.
All right.
Well, thank you guys. If you have any comments about these DXpeditions or any DXpeditions in general, we probably should have some people come on the show and talk a little bit about this. And, from the expense to the travel to the doing it part, it's a fascinating thing. And I think a lot of these folks, you have to get sponsorship or something. Like the three of us just could not put it together. We'd be out on a little John boat. Karen would be doing their best Washington as we cross some sort of creek. We just couldn't.
It wouldn't be able to mute Paul as easily if
Right.
he were on DX.
exactly.
That's my cue, Paul. That means that's enough out of him. That's code.
That's code.
Thank you both for stopping by again this week. And
You're welcome.
we hope to see you again next week. Encourage everybody to put your comments below and let us know what you think about DXpeditions, all that sort of stuff. And we'll talk to you again next week. 7-3, guys.
7-3.
73.
Take care.
Bye.
Right.
Bye.
Let's take a minute to talk about what I feel is the most beneficial deal in ham radio today. It's when you become a sustaining member of 100 Watts and a Wire. Here's how it works. When you donate $25 or more, you will become a sustaining member for a year. And during that year, you get discounts from participating businesses. It's a win-win-win. The show gets your support, you get the discounts, a little more money in your pocket for your next project, and those businesses can earn your trust. Visit 100wattsandawire.com, click the Sustaining Membership tab to learn how you can support the content you enjoy. And thanks. Doing his thing. And doing his thing is, well, it's none of my business, actually. I think he was just out. Do you get vacations? I don't know what you do. Who knows what you do? You're so secretive. Let me, I think you're unmuted. You're good. Where were you?
Yeah,
there
I
you
took a
are.
little vacation.
Oh, you took some time off. Okay.
Yeah.
What's happening with you, sir? We've got Hour 73. This is a feature where everyday people like you and me work to become a little bit more self-sufficient, learn about different things like energy and power and getting out from radio and all sorts of things, and really amplified by the COVID-19 pandemic of today, and specifically last year when we started getting things together and sort of thinking about what we can do a little bit better. So Don is my partner in this adventure, and you were mixing it up a little bit on the Facebook there when we were talking. We have some comments and we can go over some of that stuff, but I want to see what you had in mind from your vacation, what you've been thinking about.
Yeah, hey, that sounds good. I wanted to see what the rest of the world was doing, not just us, right? So threw out a few questions. If you think about it, over the past 2 sessions, with last week being off, we talked about, what are the capabilities we need, whether that's a club or individual, how you assess those needs. And honestly, as we go through the questions and the comments that were on Facebook, I'd be interested to hear how folks are setting themselves up to be able to mobilize. So if they had to either respond to their club, or even within, say, the 100 Watts and a Wire family, if I needed to get to Steve out in the Pacific Northwest, how would I do it? How could I get stuff out to him? Those type of things. So,
Gotcha.
Anything good that struck your eye on the Facebook comments?
Let me pull it up here because I just got a little too wacky and made it too large there. So let me pull it up. And so you went and talking about things, and this is the great thing about having a group like 100 Watts and a Wire. You can just put some things out there. And here's what you were asking here. The rigidity of races and Aries, and looking for something a little bit more fluid. And let's see, we're moving toward the blanket of ACS. You want to talk about that a little bit, what that means to you? What
Yeah,
the
so I was just
auxiliary...
going to say, one thing that we looked at in my jurisdiction when I was responsible for the RACES program is something that was a little more generic. So it wasn't specifically RACES, it wasn't specifically Aries, but it met what the jurisdiction needed. So again, I'm not here to comment pro or con on any particular organization's framework, but I'll say what I said in week 1. If you meet what the jurisdiction needs as a club, then you're providing a service. So it doesn't have to be called anything specific. But we looked at ACS for the reason, one, there was some movement that way across a couple other organizations nearby, but two, it's not just necessarily what we do in time of emergency. It could be support of a special event. It could be digital capabilities. It could be the ability to provide email. So we wanted to make it a little more nebulous, so that we had we had some room to wiggle. Let's just leave it that way.
Okay. And so, of course, you say you're doing a little Auxcom. Irv there with a comment talking about, investigating it because that can, too, be as rigid and as Racy's and Aries. People asking where your location was. And, again, it goes back to location. And I think that falls back in line with what you say with jurisdictions and really being local. And it kind of all depends, seems to be the commentary coming back from your post.
Yeah, and I think that's okay. So I'm going to make, I don't know if this is a bold statement or not, but I'm going to say that I believe we will be hard pressed to see an official Racy's activation where we've reached the level that something in my county is so significant that you have federal government guidelines in place on who can transmit and when. I think from the time that Racy's was enumerated in legislation or CFR and FCC guidelines, we're talking back at the height of the Cold War. The U.S. government has built capabilities to communicate regardless of what amateurs are doing. So I'm convinced that at least locally, we're not going to see one. But that doesn't mean we can't build the capability. So in my mind, I always looked at it as, what does my county need? How do we provide it? I know it's an oversimplification, but I don't care what we call it. Let's just be able to meet needs.
I mean, should people be looking at, you mentioned the radio clubs, which I think is a really interesting part because they may maintain a geographic area. That may be the club that you go to if you're within 25 to 50 miles, who knows. Should clubs and people like even people who are not in a club, should you be looking to do boundaries? Maybe that's not the right term, but maybe like a more geographic area that you may cover as this jurisdiction. Are you breaking it down in literal, say, legal, federal land? How would you describe jurisdiction?
Yeah, so that's a great question. One of the things you're going to hear is that all disasters start and end locally. So the immediate needs are somewhere local, somewhere in a jurisdiction. I can only speak to what my club does. So I know that the Carroll County Amateur Radio Club covers Carroll County, Maryland. And it just so happens that that's the county jurisdiction. But there are some places where you might go hundreds of miles and not see a club. So for me, at least locally, it's pretty easy. Most of the counties have their own clubs. They seem to align with the jurisdictional lines. So that's not to say, though, that if I'm part of Carroll County's Amateur Radio Club sitting here in North Central Maryland and somewhere in Pennsylvania, let's say Gettysburg needs our help, there's nothing to say that we can't go up there and help. I just think I'm a bit spoiled in that our club matches up with the jurisdiction. And I saw the comment you flashed up there about club members who are involved in CERT. I think it was Philip who put that. I think that's a great idea. We talk about how we build capabilities. CERT's one of them. You get great training in CERT. Even in your last segment where the discussion was talking about summits on the air or parks on the air. So some of the things we do as amateurs with the contesting will prep us to be able to help a jurisdiction in time of need. So, I love the fact that folks are all over the board and what they're trying to do and where they're trying to pick up these capabilities. I think it's fantastic.
It's great for us because I think we're trying to hit you at the individual level. Of course, we all have radio clubs. They all have different interests. We've talked about this in the past. Some contest, some are rag chewers, some just like to be local. Then you've got, I don't know, maybe a few thousand people, not in your club, but across the country who are interested in the emergency communication. And here's a comment from, we'll say Flip. I don't know I guess you'd say Laura Flip there. We started our own group with the local sheriff when Aries and Racy's was just not flexible enough, and that's how that goes where she is, and it's also,
that's a great point.
Yeah. It's a little daunting too, to think about starting your own thing, but I would be silly if I didn't approach Don and start to talk about how we can start our own thing. So this is all really important to me, that to see that people are, they're out there. There's a lot of red tape, and I think we've talked about this too. And whatever we do, I just don't want to be the guy who organizes things along with you and gets in the way of people like you, a first line responder, somebody who's right there. I just don't want to get in the way. I want to help, but I don't really know what's best to do. So there was a lot of questions for me of how you even get started on all this. Your club thing is a good grounding source, but many people don't belong to a club too. What do you say to those folks? Do we just start at home?
Yeah, well, so I'm a proponent of starting at home regardless. You want to build whatever capabilities that you want to have in your house. But in terms of being able to help, you got to ask the question. So if my county didn't have its own club, or if I decided that I didn't want to be a part of the club, perhaps one of the conversations I'm going to have is with the local jurisdiction. I'm going to call Carroll County. I'm going to call their Office of Emergency Management and say, hey, I'm an amateur operator. These are the capabilities that I have. How can I help? And let them drive the need. And if it's something that I don't have the capability for, then either I learn, maybe I get the gear, or I provide the capability that I can. So it's interesting to see. And, the comments are coming in about folks disbanding RACES and discontinued the CERT communicators course. And that's impactful. But I think there's also always somebody looking for help, and it's you throw your hat in the ring, right? So if you don't know where to start, I'm reaching out to the jurisdiction. So I'm figuring out, what those needs are, what they need from me, and then how I meet them.
Yeah. And it's important to say RACES, and I didn't think I understood this. I did 18 months in the local ARES here, and understanding what RACES really is, and you talked about it a little bit here on the front side of this, but that's going to be enacted by the president, right? That's somebody, whoever the president would say, all right, we're going to put this plan into play. And you feel, like you said, that probably won't happen. And then RACES is just kind of dangling out there, right? I get it right?
Yeah, so we use them synonymously. Our programs are RACES/ARES, and we almost make them one and the same, and they're two distinctly different programs. RACES is rooted basically in War Powers Act. If you got to think, and someone might know the exact year, but I want to say that legislation was put in place in the 1950s. So think about where we were as a country back in the 50s. You're talking about Cold War era. Emergency management on a whole wasn't even emergency management back then as much as it was civil defense. We're all in the bunkers deep underground, and that's how we're surviving. So while I appreciate that certain organizations have used RACES and ARES synonymously, the reality is that they are two different things and distinctly different guidelines. RACES, there's CFR behind it, Code of Federal Regulation. There's somewhere in Part 97, and I can't dig up where it was, off the top of my head, are all the guidelines to a RACES activation, whereas ARES is one organization's framework. So it's, your mileage might vary depending on where you are, but to the comments about reaching out to your local sheriff and seeing what they need, to Paul's comment about meeting up with the officers, police, sheriffs, or whatever, and being able to kind of figure out what they need, learn what they need, and do what they have to do. And I think Steve just put up the reference there. It's 97.407. That's how you help. That's where the help comes from, is knowing what these guys need and knowing how to fill it. So what you call it, and I'll say it, I'll die on that hill. What you call it's almost inconsequential. Being able to meet the need is what is important in time of disaster.
So a little foreshadowing. I've been talking to Don, and I do want to establish something among the members of the show and the 100 Watts and a Wire community. And I'm going to, if you're interested, I think we'll start here. If you're interested in learning more, or you're interested in emergency communications or just preparedness in general, I'm going to be developing some things over the next couple weeks and months, and maybe it'll expand beyond that. But we'll see what the interest level is. It's an invitation, I think, to anybody who sees this live or hears it down the road. I'm interested in meeting you and seeing where you are and starting to put a map together, a geographic map. That's all I'm going to say about it. Is that too much? Did I say too much, Don? Is it too cryptic? But let's just find out who's interested in this sort of stuff, right? Maybe that's the best way to say it. Drop me an email.
Yeah, and hey, look, I think we could have some fun with it. It's good to know if I needed to mobilize resources to someone that, hey, I've got a guy in the Pacific Northwest, or hey, I know someone in Arizona, part of the big Hamily, as you call it, the 100 Watts and the Wire Hamily, knowing where folks are and knowing if, God forbid here, if I needed some help, like how could I get it? How could I mobilize the 100 Watts and a Wire Army to be able to communicate? I mean, I think there's a lot of potential. We could probably have some fun with doing some things on the air if we wanted to. So I'd be interested to see what not only where folks are, but how they can communicate with the rest of us if we needed. Spike just made a comment about The Day After. One heck of a movie. So in terms of just general preparedness and that theme, I mean, think about it, moving through the 50s to, I'm a child of the 80s. And, we spent our time living in fear that we'd have to run down to the fallout shelter in the elementary school. So it's interesting how much we progressed, but it's also interesting how we built those skill sets even at a young age to know what preparedness is and how we mobilize.
Cool. Well, drop us a line. You can send me an email. I'm easy to find, Christian at 100 Watts and a Wire. And I'm going to start to put together sort of a team, if you will, or this army, if you will. That's pretty drastic when there's only two of us at the moment. So, but if you're interested in preparedness, radio communications, emergency communications, maybe you love or are in Aries or a member of your local team, drop us a line. I'd like to see just how many people are interested in sort of gathering, and then join us here on the air each week, and we'll talk about it. So that's all good news. All right, brother, I'm glad you're back. That would be a blast. There's a lot of things happening in the world, in our country specifically. We're heading in the storm season. It's coming earlier this year, predicted. We're getting tornadoes in places like Oklahoma and Virginia. I think yesterday was a hotbed. So I'm interested in collecting contacts in different parts of the country. So we'll leave it at that. How about that? You got something else?
It's starting now. So there are things going on in several parts of the nation, and if you didn't see it, the National Weather Service just predicted or moved up the average from 11 hurricanes to 14, and that we're expecting, I think, one more hurricane. Or so 11 named storms to 14, one more hurricane, 3 major hurricanes. That stayed the same. So I think the old averages were 11, 6, and 1, and now it's 14, 7. I'm sorry, 11, 6, and 3. 11 named storms, 6 hurricanes, 3 majors, to 14 named storms, 7 hurricanes, 3 majors. So it might get a little busier.
Yeah, for sure. All right, we're looking for some contacts and some correspondence down in those,
let's have some fun.
areas. Let's have some fun. Let's mobilize together. 100
Let's
watts.
do it.
All right, Don, 73, brother. We welcome back, and we'll chat again real soon. Appreciate your time.
See you next week.
Stay safe, man. 73.
QRO to the people. This is 100 Watts and a Wire.
Let's take a minute to talk about what I feel is the most beneficial deal in ham radio today. It's when you become a sustaining member of 100 Watts and a Wire. Here's how it works. When you donate $25 or more, you will become a sustaining member for a year. And during that year, you get discounts from participating businesses. It's a win-win-win. The show gets your support, you get the discounts, a little more money in your pocket for your next project, and those businesses can earn your trust. Visit 100wattsandawire.com, click the Sustaining Membership tab to learn how you can support the content you enjoy. And thanks. Main Trading Company is your one-stop ham radio shop in Paris, Texas. Find us on the web at mtcradio.com. We've been in business for 12 years. We take trades and love to help fellow hams trade up to a newer rig. Watch our used gear page on the web for great deals on older and even like-new equipment. Main Trading is a mom-and-pop business owned by Richard and Christine Lenore. We hope you'll hop on the web and give us a try, or give us a call at 903-737-0773. We're here hoping to earn your business with good old-fashioned friendly service. If you're in Northeast Texas, stop in and see us at 2707 Lamar Avenue. Main Trading Company, Surplus Electronics, and Ham Radio. Okie dokie. Welcome back. Our friend Steve is back with us, and he's been hanging out in the chat room, playing everybody's Elmer. Oh, let me get you off the mute. There you go.
There we go.
I see you over there laughing and doing your thing. You're mixing it up in the place. What's happening with the people today?
Well, it got really quiet during the balloon comments.
Oh, it's
so
fascinating.
It was great. That's fascinating, and I've always enjoyed watching the balloons, and amazed on the second lap that the current balloons are doing. And that's he didn't go into where the starting point and where was the finish line when they who was first and second, but still,
yeah,
doing a second lap around the world. That's just fantastic. And there was another comment Ricardo made about aircraft and running into a balloon and things like that. So I would imagine there would be some NOTAMs that would be issued, but yeah, that's one of the risks, and because these balloons are up in the and going through airspace that commercial air traffic is flying
right.
in. But
it scared me to death to think about that dropping down something, even with the parachute, that it would hit you. 6 pounds on the Nugget is not good. I'll show you what a tree branch will do to you. Just a little one, not a big one either. It'll give you a nice little raspberry, I think they call it.
1 pound, or the scatter shot, 12 1-pound nuggets.
Yeah, right.
Do
fascinating stuff.
Hopefully the chute opens and deploys. So, but that's cool, and good talk on the with Don there, and then the races. That's I remember when I first got licensed. They were issuing races calls, and they were WC, and then the call district. So you have to get a races license and be involved in that. So
now they're kind of combined. It's like at least
in
locally.
In a nutshell, what races? In World War II, the president ordered amateur radio. Well, Congress ordered amateur radio to go silent. Well, then they created they needed a pool of communicators, and that took like 6 months or so to get up and going. And then in 52, races was developed, and that way, if we ever had to silence the amateur radio community but still have the trained operators, the role of races was to have this group of people that are trained, registered, and ready to go. And but that's all kind of fallen the wayside, and everything has changed.
Everything's improved. Communications programs, all these platforms have changed.
Oh yeah, reliability of the existing infrastructure that counties and states are using, and they've really hardened it up. But it's still, as much as they think it's going to be reliable, and the redundancies stuff happens, or the biggest problem is an incident comes along, they're reconfiguring things, try to go, we want to do this, do that, slip of a finger on a keyboard, and boom, there goes the whole infrastructure. So we're kind of being pushed off to the side, but in reality, stuff happens, and it's usually a slip of a keyboard or or if someone gets in and deliberately misconfigures something, then all of a sudden it goes on, everything goes down. And we've seen where 911 traffic just disappears and goes away because of a misconfiguration in a router. Everything's running over VoIP, so it's really easy to kind of foobar something, get into a firewall, and do things.
Yeah.
So,
well, speaking of doing things happen, I think you call it the S happens. Here's one here.
Stuff happens.
Stuff happens. Right. I'm not sure that's the word you used earlier this week when this stuff happened.
Replace it whatever S word you would like.
Yeah, sure. Any expletive, any adverb that works well for you. Let me share something with you, Steve. It is raining. It is spring here in what I sometimes refer to as New Seattle, where it rains all the time. But we're getting lots of lightning and storms, and I'm unplugged today. I'm unplugged. You tell my rig is just sitting there. Poor bobblehead Cal Ripken's like, well, we're going to do something, man.
Yeah,
well, here's what happened to me, and I posted this yesterday. I'm not really sure how long I was going to sit here listening with the antenna unplugged. I had the radio on, and it actually wasn't the HF side. I was listening locally. I was trying to listen, and I had the scanner on, and it just didn't stop. And I'm like, that's strange. I mean, I know there's not so much activity all the time. There's 1.8 thousand people saw my apparel. I was completely unplugged, right? No wonder it didn't stop scanning. There was nothing to hear, right? But I'm happy to know that many other people are having the issue. Been there, done that a few times, even with the antenna unplugged and not really realizing it. Enjoy the Silence, which is a wonderful song from Depeche Mode. Love that. Yes, it's peaceful. Marcus, everybody's saying, look, you're not the only one.
Yeah, I'm here. Done it. Been there, done that.
HF would have been a little different, right? HF would have looked a little different because I'm not seeing anything at all. Because I was on a 2-meter rig, and the 2 meters just spinning through the repeaters and any simplex frequency. And it's just like, I'm like, wait a minute, hey, what? Because after a while, you're like, somebody's about to say something somewhere. What is going on? And time slips away, and next thing you know, you go, oh, see the laughter and the fun. We did have a good time talking about this, but it happens.
Great.
S does happen.
It happens.
It happens. The coax switch is in the wrong position. I've just been unplugged for most of the last couple of weeks, so it's weird.
It was crazy. I couldn't believe. I came out here last night and flipped on the radio. I was looking for an interface board that I built years ago, and I found it in my bench and came into the shack and turned on the radio, and the noise floor was just hideous. I mean, on 20, 40, 75 meters, that it was just, and then a few people were commenting about it, but it was like, normally my noise floor around here is, S1, S2 on a bad day, and it was sitting around S5, and it's like, yeah, I know, Steve, first world problems, most people in the city are dealing with S9 noise, and I feel your pain. Been there, done that. And, but it's, it was rough last night. I guess the storms were just going crazy. So
yeah,
feel your pain there, buddy.
It happens to everybody. It happens to everybody. But it's good to know when you find the problem and you're like, oh, and everybody's like, senior moment. I'm like, okay, now I know why people say that. It's a good, it's better than being a complete idiot. Like a complete moron is, senior moment. Sorry. Well, it was totally me. I was unplugged. Yeah, but the other good part is I was unplugged. It was a lightning storm, and you actually did it. You actually unplugged. You were right. You didn't plug it back in. But, hey, there you go. Anyway, I'm not alone, and either are you.
For your scanner, you can have an indoor antenna or something like that. You can plug into the back.
Yeah.
That way you could still listen. Just little 19-inch piece of wire bent.
Yeah, I just couldn't get over. Like I'm like, there's some repeaters that I have programmed. I probably have 70 different, memory things programmed in my 9700 back there, and usually one or two loops past somebody, you're going to catch an ID. Nothing else, you're going to catch something. And I'm like, something's just not right here, man. Oh, and just like, but thank you guys for picking me up.
Handheld. Use your handheld. It always has an antenna on it.
It's here. It's close by too. And with this weather, we've been having like talking to Don. I'm not a meteorologist or a storm chaser, but I'm curious to watch where they're hitting, and I'm getting a little more. I can always tell these little fascinating aspects of our service and this hobby is that, there's so many things to look at and start to get involved with, and I can't really read the weather maps and stuff, but I'm curious to see what's going on. My interest in emergencies and disaster and helping, coupled with following the weather patterns. So I was looking at it was Oklahoma and I think Virginia yesterday were like twisters, and weird weather patterns and things doubling back. So I kind of get the people who are into the weather and their weather. I didn't get it at first. Weather stations up on a mast, and I was like, oh, that's interesting. Now I'm starting to understand why people are really passionate about weather. I don't know about storm chasing myself, frankly. My kids are too young for me to go and chase a storm around, but I am following it. I'm following it.
Mm-hmm.
Did you ever get into weather like hardcore? Like, some people are into it.
Just I'm just kind of curious by nature of it, but never hardcore. My youngest daughter was really into it. She wanted to storm chase and things like that, and that was kind of I thought it was cool. So
there's our friend Bill.
Weather Services launched 75 balloons a day.
My new best friend.
Well, we've never had an aircraft impact, so that's probably true or never reported, but there's chances are if there was an impact it would be reported, but oh well. Yeah, there's the I do have a link on this machine back behind me, the Lightning. There's a couple of them. There's one out of Germany, I think it is.
Yeah. I think we've shared that one.
Or Biz, that is a cool website.
We shared that one.
That's one to kind of keep a watch. And a lot of people have the Davis Pro and some of the others weather stations at their house. In fact, if you kind of go on to APRS FI, you'll see a lot of weather stations that are kind of intermixed on the website there too. So there's just average ordinary people just have their weather station. They got it hooked up to the internet, and there you go. So you can get some. There's a few right here, not too far from me, and that's neat.
Speaking of
My
weather,
coworkers really into it.
I think it's fascinating. No, it's totally fine. I think it's a fascinating thing. It's an important. There's a lot of weather that isn't reported on your local news. There's a lot of things and warnings and stuff that we should probably hear about. And I'm not a complete an alarmist, but it's good to pay attention a little bit beyond what's happening on your local TV. That needs to fit in 45 seconds so they can get to the car commercial, so I got a little bit more of an eye. I appreciate the sites that are coming into the chat now too that are saying, check this one. But I'm really serious about putting together kind of a network of people who are, either follow the show or been with the show for a long time. I know I can count on you up there in Washington State. We've got Maryland and probably New Jersey, but it'll be interesting to kind of see. We're putting some people in different places, and I'm working on something. I'm cooking something up, Steve. It's in the oven. It's a little half-baked.
You're always cooking. You're a baker. You're always baking something.
Gotta feed the people. But yeah, and as interest change, it's like, okay, well, maybe we'll sprinkle a little bit of that in there. A little bit of Old Bay, a little bit more Old Bay. Scoop of Old Bay. All right, friends, this is the part I think that you've been waiting for. They love when we get to talking to Steve. This is the part where we take a few of your questions and we share them on the YouTube channel. We share those with you, and they come in. You can send them through email. You can send them in the chat. We usually would pick those up tomorrow. Facebook is a great repository. You've seen me reference it a couple of times. Oh, there's one other thing. Did I keep it around, or did I keep it around here? Now, I don't know about this brother personally. I did want to share this before the question, so sorry. I'm calling an audible at the line. I'm doing a little Eli Manning or whoever your quarterback is. The Radio Society of Great Britain has posted this about the death of Prince Philip. He was a supporter of the club there, of the Radio Society of Great Britain. So they have honored him today on their site. Not a ham radio operator himself, unless his military service required some kind of, I'm sure, radio work of him, but not a ham radio operator. But he says something wonderful here. And he was at a place in 2017 there with Great Britain Youth, and says the skills involved in amateur radio are a valuable foundation for careers in science, technology, engineering, and math. So an endorsement coming out of, the man who's married to the Queen was very good for them, and they've honored him today on that page. Now, I don't, of course, know his history, and he was 99 years old. What a life. And everybody says, well, he said some inappropriate things, and I'm like, he's 99 years old. I don't trust somebody who's that old and doesn't say some off-the-cuff thing that's not quite politically correct or true or right all the time. But anyway, that's...
yeah, I mean, come on, really? We've all said something stupid in our life.
Even today.
And where you come back and regret it, so...
Yeah,
we're not perfect.
That sort of gets coupled into his legacy there. But the people there where he is, and I don't know enough about Prince Philip, apart from he was never the king because he was not in line to be the king just because you married the woman who became. She made him a prince, but he was actually a prince, I think, from Denmark and Greece. I guess I know a little bit more than I claim, but...
You know more than me.
I don't know about him as a person, right? So I don't, but that's why he wasn't the king. He just wasn't ever in line for that. Her father was the king. And when he passed, that's how she became. It's an interesting thing. These monarchies are pretty wacky, and it's everything America was set up to not be, right? The early pioneers and founding fathers didn't really want this system. So, but anyway, it is a fascinating look at it. Thank you for the sidebar. Andy says he was a great man. He was a great man.
Yes, he was, and rest in peace, sir. And he almost made DXCC, but we're rooting for our girl Betty White.
Betty White, she's going
to make DXCC. So
yeah. Oh, there's your thing. Now we're getting kind of laid back. Once Steve gets here and we get rid of the guests that come through here, I feel an obligation to time with the other people. But now,
this one, that is a great site.
That's the site. That's the site for weather.
That is so cool.
Edwin's yelling at me about audio levels. Is this better for you, Edwin? Yeah, we're doing better here now.
Audio lowered.
I don't know why. We've got some questions. Each week we take at least a few questions. We try not to keep you here too long, but appreciate you here. I'm on a rainy day, so I'm kind of dragging a little bit because I enjoy spending time with y'all. First question. You ready, Steve?
Bring it on.
All right. Why is it better to have a balun in a dipole? And what kind of balun do we need, voltage or current balun? Boy, they asked you the ones that you got to like, you could give a whole presentation on baluns, right?
Yeah, no, balance. Well, it's, the balun is basically a transformer, and it allows us to go from an imbalanced line, which our coax is, to a balanced antenna, which a dipole is. And, but probably the biggest purpose of the balun is to reduce common mode currents, which causes radiation along on our feed lines. So we want to reduce the RFI. Back in the day, we didn't know anything about it. We just threw up a balun or a dipole, hooked our coax up to it, and off we went. But we were complaining, God, I got RF in the shack and this and that. Well, that's that problem that is having the feed line re-radiate, and so the balun is there to isolate it. It's and we don't use it just in RF. It's used in audio, where you have an unbalanced versus a balanced. And so like this particular microphone has a balanced output, the XLR. And if you plug it into, and then you use an unbalanced microphone where you only have the hot and then a shield, and you plug it into a balanced input, you can get hum. And so the baluns are used not just in RF. Now the type of balun you want to use for your dipole is the current balun, because that's provides the choking effect that you want to keep the radiation from re-radiating on your coax, because it will come back down, and RF floats on the surface. When it goes up the coax, the power is going up to your antenna. It's contained inside the coax. When the standing waves are reflecting it back and it's coming down, it's now on the shield on the outside, and now it's re-radiating it. So the current balun is much better at choking that and handling a wider range of VSWRs. The voltage balun doesn't like that. It's trying to counteract with voltage, and what ends up happening, you got a phase shift, which in turn creates the RF to re-radiate onto your coax. But there is a benefit to the voltage balun, and the Carolina Windham is one of them, where you put a 4-to-1 voltage balun at the feed point, and then you have a section of coax, like 22 feet, for example, on a 80 through 10, and then you throw another current balun there in line to do the choking effect. So now you just keep that 22-foot section of coax as a radiating element in the vertical plane versus the horizontal. So if you're going to pick a balun, pick a current balun. Go with the current balun every time. It has lower loss. It's much better. The voltage balun is you want to stay away from in your standard ordinary dipole configuration. OCF and trying to use vertical, then look at the voltage balun.
All right. Thank you for that. We'll head into another question now. Outside of calling CQ, how do I know if I'm reaching the repeater I'm trying to reach?
You would, a lot of people say just kerchunk it. And what is kerchunk is where you just key it up real quick and then release it. Not a good practice. It's kind of considered bad form. And if the repeater has a hang time where the transmitter stays up for 5 seconds, most of them do have that hang time. So that you know that, hey, at least I activated the repeater. But probably the best way of doing is, and in the repeater world, a lot of people on the VHF, UHF side, for some reason, they freak out when you call CQ on repeaters. And the common accepted practice is just throw your call sign out and say monitoring. And that's similar to saying CQ. And as long as you hear the hang time, at least you activate it. Now the question is, you don't know how well you're into it, but if someone comes back, then they can tell you, yeah, you're full quieting or you're noisy, but usually just throw out your call sign, W7 UDI monitoring, and there you go.
And usually somebody will come back.
Yeah.
Or, I mean, if they don't want to, but good answer, Steve. All right, let's take a final.
So before we go on the final
Yes.
one, another thing that it always kind of amuses me is that one person will come up, W7XYZ monitoring, K7 ABC monitoring right after the person is like, okay, why don't you just, and then they start chatting. It's kind of like, and I don't know if it's just
I'm monitoring too.
I'm on, and then they start talking. What the ultimate goal is, they got into a conversation, but it's always kind of comical. But it's you'll figure it out. Every repeater kind of has their little way of doing things, and some places they get a little irritated if you use Q signals or anything else, and they just go along and with what works.
All right. Here's the next question. What's the difference between a 5x5 signal report and Q5 report? And I think I get this. Sometimes we'll say you're 5.9, you're 10 over, and then you'll hear people say
Q5
Q5 copy on you. How do we explain
yeah,
that?
well, it's the quality, and it's I understand your Q5. I pick everything. 5x5 is your quality is 5. Your signal strength is S5, is 5x5 or 5.9. But Q5 is basically saying, yeah, your quality is good, but I'm not giving you a signal strength. It's that is more appropriate on like a repeater. It's because you're looking at I'm looking at my S meter and the repeater is 20 over, and but it's always 20 over here at my location from talking to this particular repeater. So Q5 would be definitely appropriate in a repeater application. HF, yeah, you could say you're Q5, but you're not telling, you're just saying the quality is
your audio sounds
5.
great. That might be easier to
great.
say.
I understand you, but you might be an S1, and but I still, to me, you're Q5.
Got it. So we've got power or signal strength as opposed to quality. Got it.
Quality, yeah.
Is 5 the top?
Subjective.
Is that's the top? Okay.
1 through 5. Yeah.
Got it. All right. Good. That helped. I had part of that answer there. It's good. That was part of my question. Good deal. You can send your questions to me. You can send it at Christian@100wattsandawire.com, or you could leave a comment here in today's show. You could chat, send it. Facebook's good. Twitter. We're all over the place, so you can drop it in there. All right. Well, good deal. I think we fooled him again. Steve, thanks for everybody who came into the chat today. We've got some DX. We've got the Netherlands. We've got Finland, right? Is it Finland or Norway? Where are you, Tim A? 087 is Finland. Norway? Norway. St. Petersburg. No. Where are you, Tim A? Where are you? It's Norway or Finland. I get them twisted up, but it's good to see the DX because it's the evening there. They're drinking wine where we're just here in the morning drinking beer.
Yeah, Nancy cracked the bottle already, so.
They eat delicious food there. They'll tell us. Where are you, Tim A? You in Finland or Norway? I'm going to go with Norway.
I think it's
a quarter on Norway, sir. Oh, I want to share this with you, too, before it gets away. Went to the post office box this week, got some things. CQ would like me to re-up. It's time to pay up again. But a couple of QSL cards this week came in, and I want to thank Kilo Bravo 9 November Bravo Echo. I don't know if you can see that. Nice folks there. Nice. It gets a little blurry. But what they sent me, Steve, was something really cool, and it's a piece of this flag. And they may do this all the time because I don't know Bonnie and Tom Moore here. They're in Illinois. But this is part of an American flag that was flown in the U.S. It says, I can no longer fly since the sun and wind have caused me to become tattered and worn. Please carry me as a reminder of the privilege that is yours to live in the great nation which I provided. I was privileged to fly over. And this is from the Vietnam Veterans of America, home of the brave, because of the brave. So they've sent me a piece of a flag that no longer flies, but remind me to carry it and to remember why it was flying. I thought that was a really sweet thing to send. So my thanks to, I don't know if Tom listens or we've just had a casual, contact here on March 13th on 40 meters there. But he thought enough to send me a piece of a flag. I think that's just cool. And the star. It's star.
Exactly.
Got the star. So I've been carrying this. I got another QSL card I'll share with you too. This is cool. It's the Nickel Belt Amateur Radio Net. I guess I've checked in. It just says, have a nice day. Hope to hear you on the net from the Nickel Belt family. That's Victor Alpha 3, Charlie, Romeo Echo, Raleigh. You're 5'9". All right, friends. Well, thank you so much. Thank you so much. That's just cool, right, Steve? Isn't that cool?
Oh, that
a little
is way
piece of the
cool. That is-
flag. I'm a geek, but that's cool. Somebody cut the flag out that can't fly anymore. Neat.
Well, that's a great way of doing it because flags that have flown. In fact, I got a stack here at the house, and that fly on my flagpole, and I replace them, and I have them folded up, and they need to be properly disposed of. But this is another way of
Neat.
disposing of it and spreading it out. That the flag is flown, and that's awesome.
Thank you to all our veterans. This came from the Vietnam Veterans of America, home of the free because of the brave. And that's their chapter. They're on Facebook. So anyway, thank you so much. I thought that was such a neat, thoughtful gift.
That is cool.
What else? Did we get it all? I think we had technically speaking, I think we did okay. We did better. Each week I learn something new. So, and then I come away with notes of things I got to figure out. But for the most part,
Yeah,
I
now
had a
you
fun
got to
time.
go bang your head because of, the
Oh,
AR
don't
guys.
say that. I'm scaring the kids. I'm like, I'm just going to wear a hat now. I was removing a tree one time, and it was a pine, and it wasn't very tall at all, but they've got all these things, and they're beautiful. I love pine. It had died. It got some kind of bug thing, and I took it down. This was a few years back on a Sunday morning, and you're moving things and you're pulling things around, and they get you sometimes. This one got me this week, and the pine years ago caught my eye, and I was just like, S happens, but I was like, oh, okay, this is actually not good at all. And
Nope.
but and I'm wearing glasses. You got glasses and goggles, but this one came across the forehead, so I felt like something out of the WWF over the weekend. I did get that tree. Get me, I'll get you. But we will process all that wood, and it'll be fine. Hope we get to
Rack it
plug
and
back
stack it.
in. Tomorrow we've got a net, and I hope to be plugged in for it. I don't know what the weather beyond today, but we got a rainy. Yep. Timmy said, Timmy, where you at, man? I see you making fun of my hair. Wear a hard hat for a hard head. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Where are you? Norway or
I
Finland?
think it's Finland.
Finland. We gotta,
OH7, yeah.
yeah, we gotta have that. Every ham must have have this item, a hard hat. We definitely have hard heads.
Especially climbing. It's just one thing. It just drives me nuts. Is guys don't wear hard hats or even the rock climbing helmets. It's just head protection because it's, I'm on the tower. It's like you're gonna bang your head on the tower. Trust
And
me,
you're
I've done
under
it.
me, and I'm
plenty of
dropping
times.
this wrench.
Yeah, definitely the people down below, but
Oof.
Even on the tower, it's just wear some head protection. It doesn't cost that much, and it's not that big of a deal. But
Yeah.
there's a lot of people that don't. They don't do that. I see pictures all the time, and it just kind of drives me a little on the nutty side.
Mm-hmm. Don't
These guys
drive
not wearing it.
Uncle Steve
It's like,
nutty.
No.
He's irritable at dinner, and he will throw some stuff. You want a biscuit? I'll show you a biscuit.
Biscuit. Let me bounce this biscuit off
Yeah.
your head.
We skip it across the table. That's Uncle Steve. Don't get him upset. All right, 73, everybody. Thanks for coming by today. I hope you have a
73,
great
y'all.
weekend. Stay out of trouble and look after each other and yourselves. And by all means, if you can, please try and stay above the noise. 7-3.
7-3, y'all.
To join the 100 Watts in a Wire community, visit 100wattsinawire.com.